Our mission at the BIC Alliance is to connect who's who in business, industry, and community with each other and their suppliers for the betterment of all. And with the letter N, what I like to start with is never meet a stranger. And I like to start by saying that we never get a second chance to make a good first impression. And this afternoon, it's going to be interesting to see how many people really understand about networking and how many don't. And you can look around the room, but one of the things I would recommend is that you always have your name tag on your right side. And the reason for that is so that when you shake hands with someone, you've got good eye contact and you'll be able to identify with the name of the person. So it's very important to be a good listener. And I've actually written a book about listening called Michael Learns to Listen. But simply put, I take the word listen and take the L in listen and remember to look at the person. And it's very important to look interested and to look like that you want to really get to know the person. We're going to talk about some mistakes in networking later, but the simple fact that if you, I'm going to run through listening real fast. Look at the person, interpret what they're trying to tell you or say. Because if somebody tells you, I love you, and they're doing that, then they may be saying one thing, but their body language is telling you something else. That's another important thing about listening. The next thing in listen is S, and that means stay attentive. And the best way to stay attentive that I've found is to ask questions. And I can share this with you, that if many of you can do it on your iPad now or your phone, but I've always believed in taking notes. The simple act of taking notes when you're speaking with someone, you're going to retain about 25% more information. Not only that, it's great for referencing. And the next little tip on listening, we say L-I-S-T. The T is think before responding. And that's one of the biggest challenges that we face when meeting people and talking to them. A lot of us are so anxious to tell our story that we blurt in. These are some little tips about listening and better communications. Typically, when somebody is getting ready to interrupt you, they're going to lean forward and start nodding their head. Well, you just want to give them the floor, because if you don't, they're going to take it anyway. And when somebody's ready to kind of let you talk, they'll tend to lean back. And so just think about when you're trying to network with somebody, you never get a second chance to make a first impression and to think before saying something. In the E in listen, it's real simple. Encourage. If you encourage others to speak up, let them talk first. And another way to get them to be better communicating with you and to network better is when you ask a question, don't ask a question that could be answered with a yes or no. Ask a question that leads into more dialogue. And the last letter in listen is never interrupt. And I know that's very hard, because most of us think what we have to say is about 100 times more important than what the other person says. But if you just remember those little tips about listening, because to me, listening and networking go hand in hand. A lot of time, people have asked me how we can have such a big, successful business after going to rock bottom. But there's a couple of things that don't cost a nickel to learn, and that is how to network and how to listen. So with that, I'm going to move forward to the E in networking. And as you notice, some of this is right ties in with listening, and it's enthusiasm, encourage, and empathy. Now, empathy is different than sympathy. And when you're trying to network with somebody, I want to share this with you, and it's very, very important. If y'all notice most of our material, you look back on the back there, you'll see that we talk about the triangle at BIC. The BIC magazine, the executive recruiting, and the investment banking. Well, networking is kind of the same way with a triangle. You've got networking in your personal life, you've got networking in your business life, and you've got networking in your community. And when you remember that a lot of people think networking is how to socialize in an event, but networking, the way I believe in doing it, is to make it a full-time personal commitment. And by that, I recommend that when you wake up in the day, think, who can I connect someone with this day? My personal recommendation, which I'm going to go over a little bit later, is make 3 referrals a day. Say one thing nice to somebody that's not expecting it, and count your blessings. And if you don't leave but with one thing today, I share with you, happiness is a choice. A lot of people, you go around and it's real easy. You can look at this bottle of water here. Some people are going to think of it as half full and half empty. And it's really your choice. And when I didn't have 2 nickels to rub together, and by the way, 33 years ago, April Fool's Day, I was practically homeless, living in a 2-room hotel on border when I picked up the first BIC magazine. And I chose April 1st to launch the company because half the people told me I was crazy to go into business. I was a fool to go into business. And the other people, the other half, told me I was a fool not to because I was over 40 years old and broke. Said the only way you ever going to get back is to go back into business. So that was why I chose April Fools to start the business. The best way to network is to encourage others to speak up and tell their story. If you walk around today, you can see some people make some really serious mistakes. And to me, I call it the inner smile. I may not know many things, but I do know how to network. Now, when I had to go back into industry, what I did is I made a list. Now, I'm not the person who came up with this idea, but I'm going to share it with you. And what I did, I took a blank piece of paper, and I wrote, by the way, this is my favorite journal. This is all I know. It's blank because I'm adding to it every day, and that's what I would encourage you to do. But anyway, I put PIK, people I know. On the other side, I put people who know people. I went back and forth, and I wrote down people in the industry that either I knew or that knew people. And the first person I called, and this is very important about networking, and it goes to the end again, never burn a bridge. Because I've called my former boss, I found out that there was a job at Hill Petroleum. It's now the Alliance plant in Krotz Springs, Louisiana. It was Valero for a long time. But anyway, I found out there was a job, and then I went on, that there was no such thing as going online at that time, so I started researching, and I found out all the companies that Hill Petroleum owned, and I went through and I zeroed in on the training managers at all those companies, and I met, and I had known one of them from the ASTD, American Society for Training and Development. Her name was Judy Hill. I can remember it vividly. And so I wrote that down. So I knew somebody that would speak up for me from my professional organization. And so I contacted Judy. I said, look, they got a job over, she was in the upstream business, but I said, they got a job over in the refinery, Hill Petroleum. I don't know anybody there. She said, you get to the top management and I'll handle it. I'll take care of HR in Houston. Now, let me stress this about networking. Networking may get you an interview, it will not get you a job. You still got to sell yourself. But anyway, then I contacted my plant manager contacted my plant manager from Ethel Corporation and told him about the job. He said, how can you start up a refinery? You've never worked in a refinery. You can start up a chemical plant, but not a refinery. Anyway, so I said, well, I know how to create a train of trainers, a cadre of trainers, and I got good friends in the refinery that will share their information if I show them how to do movies. And so he said, okay, if you think you can do it and you got a game plan, I'll call the guy. He called the plant manager, and I got an interview at 7 o'clock that night, on Friday night. I got that job, over 700 people, some of them had a PhD. And I vowed that night that for the rest of my life, I would not only be a networker, but I would show other people how to network. Now I know some of you just can't wait to get out here and meet people, but sometimes just being a little bit more prepared can really make that happen. So I'm going to give it just a few more minutes. Think about what you're doing. Go ahead. Networking needs to be as much a part of your daily work activities. And how many of you have ever heard of the law of reciprocity? Anybody know what that is? You want to tell me real quick how you interpret that? If you do something for me, I'll do something for you. That is a great thing. If you help others, they tend to respond in kind. When you make others number one, they realize how brilliant you are, and they'll tend to make you number two. But you have to work at networking. And the other two things, be optimistic, have a good outlook, and look out for others. A lot of times we're so anxious to take care of ourselves that we don't try to look out for the other person's interests, and that's the key to networking, okay? Or is you gotta be yourself. Typically, I believe how many of you in sales here, sales and marketing? I think most of us know in the first 30 seconds to a minute if we're gonna really do business with somebody or not. Just get this gut feeling. And then we spend the rest of the time trying to determine what's gonna be mutually beneficial. Keep information, keep up with it. The names you've helped, the people that help you. When you send I know a lot of us make referrals. This is very important. When you make a referral, don't just refer the person. Send a little business card or send that person that you referred the information. Keep up with those records, and that'll help not only move the process forward. And last, I'll say, there's nothing better than knowing to keep learning. And so I'll close with this. On this afternoon, when you leave, we're going to have about 300 complimentary books and DVDs. They're there not only as a gift from the BIC Alliance, but our 300 marketing partners and all of these co-sponsors that are here. And so if you would pick those on your way out, have a great afternoon. And if I'll be around here if you have any questions or want to visit. God bless you. And I would close by this. I've been very successful by making God, family, and helping others number one. I hope you can take that home with you. Thank you for coming.